Those eyes disguise our hide. Bright lights decide the fight. Your heart beats fast despite the truth that love is blind. I just wanna feel anything.
Welcome to the Clean and Filthy podcast with your host, Matthew M.
Hello and welcome back to the Clean and Filthy podcast, where we are clean and serene with the filthy mind in between. I am your host. My name is Matthew M. and I am an addict in recovery. Welcome back, everybody. Here we are for episode 41. So very grateful that you are here hanging out on the Clean and Filthy podcast. We got a great episode for you today. Got an incredible interview queued up, as well as going to be answering some more questions, talking about my favorite moments of the week, and giving them clean time shout outs. Before we go any further, I have to take a quick second and apologize for the issues that we had with episode 40. If you are one of our listeners or viewers who simply listens to the podcast off of a podcast directory, or you just go back and watch the whole episodes on YouTube, you do not know all of the episode issues that we had on episode 40. But for everybody who was on the live stream, you guys saw what happened. So, to give a quick recap, pretty much everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. My computer decided to blue screen of death. Then when I finally got everything back up and running again, I couldn't get the episode, the interview to start playing. Then I thought I relaunched the live stream and thought I finished the rest of the episode live, only to find out that my live streaming software didn't go live. So I was doing the entire second half of the show just for an audience of myself. Super, super awesome. Plus forgot to record a couple things. There were a lot of issues. Mistakes were made, but that's okay, because every mistake is an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to do better. So if anybody was here for the last live stream and there was an issue, the whole episode is completely finished, edited, properly put onto the interweb. So if you did not get a chance to hear the rest of our interview with Mark S., the host of the Mr. Stutz podcast, or the second half of the episode, make sure to head over wherever you consume this podcast. It is listed. So now that we got that out of the way, have to also say I'm sorry that episode 41 was delayed. I was in full COVID protocol for a week. Started showing symptoms. We'll get into that a little bit more later. So we had to delay a week, and that delay has further delayed episodes for the rest of the month. So the month of January, we will only be having 2 episodes, episode 40 and now episode 41. We will not be on the air next Tuesday, January 25th, but we will be back on the air February 1st, 2022. All right, we got all that out of the way. Now let's get into the normal stuff. Before we go into our other shout outs and ways to find us, I have to give a huge thank you to Valentino Khan, Alice in Wonderland, and Mad Decent Records for allowing us the privilege of having the beautiful song Anything as the theme music here on the Clean and Filthy podcast. So big shout out to them. All of the streaming information and download information is listed below, so check them out. Also, have to give a huge thank you to our VIP supporters. These are the people on Patreon who are helping continue grow this product with donations. They are every month, every dollar that comes in on Patreon goes right back into this product. It goes into marketing, goes into equipment, it goes into developing the best possible product and best possible podcast to put out there. So if you are interested in helping support this podcast with donations on Patreon, head over to our Patreon page. All that information is also listed down below with the rest of the social media. And you can head over and become one of our patrons. If you do become a patron, not only do you get a shout out on air like these people are about to, but you also get one of these amazing Clean and Filthy podcast stickers. So shout out to each one of them for helping support this podcast. And they are our VIP supporters here on the Clean and Filthy podcast are Alex B, Sage A, Cindy, Stephanie, Shar, Liana, Clint, and Alex T. Thank you all so very much for your continued support. Greatly appreciate it. It feels so good knowing that what we're doing here is believed in by others. And it feels great knowing that we can help get this message out and potentially help people. So shout out to our VIP supporters. If you're curious about how to find us on all the other social medias, again, everything is listed down below. The Facebook page, the Twitter page, the Instagram page, and yes, the TikTok page are all listed below. So make sure that you have liked, followed, retweeted, subscribed, gotten notifications from all of the different social media so you will be first to know when we have a new episode out. So again, thank you all for all the continued support with that. So what are we here? What do we do? Who am I? What are you hanging out for? Well, again, my name is Matthew M. I am an addict in recovery, and this is the Clean and Filthy podcast. We are a 12-step recovery-based podcast focusing on experience, strength, and hope, talking about the things that addicts like myself in recovery work through and process and deal with on a daily basis. We talk about how to become a better person, how to leave the world a better place than we found it. This is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to change. That's the point of what we do here on the Clean and Filthy podcast. So if you are new and this is your first time here, what up? Welcome. Hope you stick around. Hope you hear something you like and you come back next week. So if you're on YouTube right now watching the live stream, what up, y'all? If you're not and you're not familiar with that, we do this episode or all of our episodes live on YouTube. Again, you can always go over to the YouTube page, subscribe to get the notification when we go live. I really enjoyed last week's ability to interact with our listeners and our viewers on YouTube, so I really hope that continues today and we don't have any issues. That's what we're hoping for. So if you're on YouTube right now and you want to help support this podcast, please make sure to throw us a thumbs up, maybe throw us a comment, maybe share us with your friends, family, pets. I'm down for downloads from any species, so send it over. Also, if you want to help support us, make sure to download this podcast from wherever you consume your podcast from. As I said, if you are on a podcast directory right now, thank you for hanging out here. And you would like to participate in the live stream, have a little question and answer dialogue during the episode, head on over to the YouTube page. Would love to have more people watching the live stream. I love the live stream element. I love Twitch. I love just live streaming in general. So it's a lot of fun for me. And hopefully it's a lot of fun for everybody else as well. So that's where to find us. Wherever you found us from, thank you for being here. Please, if you hear something you like, share it with anybody you can, because we are an independent podcast, completely in-house, no production company, no director, no producers, no major Spotify deal. We are simply here trying to put out the best product we can to help carry the message of recovery out to the public. So, now to get a little transition, to let you guys know, what we're doing here. So again, we're talking about everything within the 12-step recovery model. We're talking about steps. We're talking about traditions. We're talking about concepts. We're talking about spiritual principles. We're talking about the things that addicts like myself walk through with dignity and grace, or at least attempt to. We talk about ways to grow. We talk about really everything that comes up in a normal life of an addict in recovery. So if you are an addict in recovery, you are exactly where you should be. Hang out. If you're an addict who's not in recovery, you're exactly where you should be. Hang out. If you're somebody who has no direct ties to the disease of addiction, hang out. You're exactly where you should be. Maybe you'll hear something you like. And if so, then hopefully you will be back on the next episode. But I also want to make sure to stress what we don't do. Because I want to stay in line with the traditions, I will not be speaking from a point of authority or identification to any one specific 12-step fellowship. I will not be speaking on what my fellowship of choice is, or what my home group of choice is, or what area and region I personally do service in. I will not be giving recommendations about recovery residences or treatment centers or any of those things. But if you have any question about anything that we don't discuss here on air, please reach out to me directly. I would love to help get the resources to you however I can. Reach me at matthew@CleanAndFilthyPodcast.com or on any of the social medias. We're listed on all of them. Also, if you are currently on the live stream right now and you're looking for the easiest way to be able to download all of our podcasts, I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you this QR code. Scan it. Yeah, scan that QR code. It'll take you over to all of our podcasts. You can download them all, and then you can love them, hopefully. And if you don't love them, hit me up. Let me know why you don't love them, because I'm always open to notes. So that's what we do. That's who I am. That's everything to get us started. And now it's time to get into our first segment of the week.
Let's head to the lab for some R&D. Recovery and development.
That's right, y'all. We are in the lab for some R&D, recovery, and development. This is the part of the show where we discuss something directly from the 12-step recovery model. This is where we're talking about steps and traditions. We might be talking about concepts or spiritual principles. We might be talking about pieces of the literature. That's what we've covered in all of our previous episodes. So if this is your first time here and you know nothing about the 12-step recovery model from the disease of addiction, I highly recommend checking out episodes 1 through 12, where we talk about steps 1 through 12, or check out episodes 13 through 24, where we talk about traditions 1 through 12. Then we also get into breaking down our first piece of literature. We talk about my personal story, detailing my active addiction, and then detailing my current recovery. And now, as of episode 40, we are bringing in guests to the lab here on the Clean and Filthy podcast to share their experience, strength, and hope. And this week, for episode 41, we got my boy Ely C from Las Vegas sharing his experience, strength, and hope. We had a lot of fun in this interview. Hope you guys like it. A little side note before we get started. I was using the wrong mic to record for the first about 7 minutes of this interview. So my audio is not the best for the first 7 minutes. Then my brain started braining again and was like, oh, yeah, I'm not using the good microphone. So then it gets better. So I promise the sound gets better after about 7 minutes in. And yeah, just stick with it through the horrible audio that I have for the first few minutes. And then it will be beautiful. It'll be absolutely beautiful, hopefully. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get into my man's story, Ely C from Las Vegas. Here you go. And we are in the lab, the Clean and Filthy podcast. We've got my boy, Ely C from Vegas, joining us here today. This dude is one of my predecessors that I have known my entire recovery. Like, I literally saw this dude every single night at 9 p.m. for the first 4+ months of my recovery. And he's got an incredible story with massive experience, strength, and hope. Plus, low-key, he's killing it on the recovery TikTok vibe. So, Ely C, Welcome to the lab here on the Clean and Filthy podcast.
Hey, how you doing today, folks? It's good to be here, man. Thank you, Matthew, for inviting me out here today.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. You've been one of my boys since early on. When I was first getting established out in Vegas, I was like, what's Ely doing? Where's Ely at? All right, cool. He's going to the men's spiritual breakfast. I'm going to the men's spiritual breakfast. He's going to the campfire. Let's go. I'm going. So I really do appreciate you more than you probably know, especially early on. But, it's always been love. You're a great dude. And you've got a massive story full of some crazy experience, some crazy strength, and some crazy hope. So I want to go in, give you an opportunity to discuss what your story is, discuss the things, that led you to maybe your rock bottom, or at least to that point where you're like, I need some help. Talk about, what led you into recovery, and then we'll kind of go from there. So Ely C, take it away, my brother.
Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate it, man. I just wanted to let you guys know I'm extremely grateful to be alive today. There was a time in my life where literally I was stuck in a bathroom, right? I don't know who could relate to that. Maybe some can't. There was a period of time where I was crying, figuring out why I can't stop using, right? There was a period of time where I thought I really had my ish together, right? Because I had a little job, right? I had money, I was paying my bills, but I was dead inside, right?
Yeah.
Just constantly contemplating about getting the next one, So my story is I say real simple, but it's really complicated. So the way it happened, man, is I was out there for years in the streets, right? I come from a background of good morals, right? Catholic upbringing, all that stuff, Roman Catholic from New York City and all that,
Where New York at, yo?
Yeah, Manhattan, but even when I was young, you know what I mean? Like I always wanted to fit in with like the cool kids, right? And I always wanted to chase their approval, and I always wanted to do whatever they were doing, right?
Yeah.
And I remember this specifically. I don't know who can relate to this, but I remember when I smoked my first joint, when I smoked my first blunt, right? And I had this overwhelming feeling of like calmness, like everything just calmed down. And I promise you, the first thought in my head wasn't like, maybe I shouldn't do this again. It was like, man, I want to feel like this for the rest of my life.
Forever. I never don't want to be feeling like this.
Yes. You know what I mean? So when I felt that, I was like, man, I need to chase this. Right. And so I chased that type of high for decades. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just like a lot of things, like it progressed. Like my addiction really progressed. It didn't matter what the family was trying to do. They moved me out to Vegas, right? And I try to do right, but eventually, like my own thinking got me right back to the slippery slopes.
And at the end of the day, Vegas isn't the best place if you aren't very strong within some type of recovery element. Like, I mean, we got great recovery out there, but if you ain't in recovery, it ain't the best place to be.
It get rough
from
man.
Experience as well in Vegas.
Yeah. There's so much temptation, and like I kept messing up, you know what I mean? I was never that child that got the A's or nothing like that, you know what I mean? So I bounced back and forth from Las Vegas to New York. I had an uncle that lived out here as a blackjack dealer, and he called my mom. He was like, because I got picked up by it was late. I was under 18. I got picked up by Metro Police, for being out late for like curfew.
Right.
I didn't. I'm from New York. Like we don't do curfew out there.
Curfew.
What's a curfew? So I come out here, you know what I mean, and I'm already playing with fire, He's like, I just can't handle him. Like I can't do this, because they knocked on his door at like 11 o'clock at night. It was like, this young kid is just out here doing the most. You know? So that's how I knew like I was real rebellious at a young, you know. So I went back to high school. Thank God I went back to high school in New York. Thank God I graduated high school. I don't even know how I did that, but I did that.
Right.
It took me like an extra 2.5 years.
Gotcha. A little bit on attic time there.
But a little left behind here and there.
Right,
you know, I didn't come to Narcotics Anonymous because I'm smart. I didn't get into recovery or any other 12-step programs because I'm smart. You know.
Right.
Anyway, so the way it happened was, you know, I graduated high school, came back to Vegas because I didn't want to leave my mom out here. So I came back to Vegas. And when I came to Vegas, I had this notion of like I was gonna do better, right? I thought it was just New York.
Right. It's just geography.
I thought it was just like, hey, it's the block life, right? It's the projects, Harlem, you know, it's that's the problem, right? So I come out here, follow my mom, and what happened was that like it wasn't that New York was not the problem,
right?
It was me, right? Like my thinking was off, and you know I maintained a little job here and there in the third, but like then the result, man, like I was using progressively, like if it went from weed to liquor, right? Then it went from liquor to a little bit of blow. Then it went from a little bit of blow to now pills, right? And I don't know if a lot of people remember the opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
Right.
I was part of it as well.
Yeah, before the DA was involved, you know, like big, it was just like everybody.
OC80s for everybody. It was like Oprah giving out OC80s. You get an OC80. You get an OC80.
Yeah, you're getting the M's. You're getting the blue. You know what I mean? And I remember like you could easily find a doctor and just be like, yeah, I have back pain and I have anxiety, and they'd be like, oh, here's a prescription for Percocet 30s, and here's a prescription for some Xanax.
100%.
You know?
100%.
That's when I really started playing with fire. That's when I really started playing with fire, you know?
And that's an interesting thing that you mentioned, because like what I think so interesting about your story is it's so similar to my story, because my story was exactly that same way, that it was like, okay, it was progressive. And yeah, it was a problem. But once it got to using opiates on it, you know, that level, that's when things for me really jumped off. Is that the similar story for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Like I remember having a nice job. I was working for a store as loss prevention.
Okay.
At that time, you know what I mean? Yeah, I was one of those kind of like party guys, but it would be like, all right, the weekends is party, but the weekdays I'm good, right?
Good. Yeah.
But I always had this sense of like hustle, like go get it. Like it was a never ending, like go. And when I found another avenue to try to like hustle, it was with that. Right. I remember I got into a little fender bender accident. Well, no, I'm lying. See, there I go. So it wasn't really a fender bender. Like I met a bunch of cool folks out here, right? They love riding dirt bike. Where I'm from, right? It's all Latinos, Harlem, right? We African American out here. I come out here, bunch of white boys, right? And like, I dig the vibe. I was like, different, you know what I mean? Different out here. These guys like to live life, you know what I mean? They don't live all compact. In New York, compact, right? Out here was like, oh, houses and dirt bikes and four-wheelers, right? And RV trailers.
Right.
So we used to go dirt bike, right? And I remember getting into a little accident on the dirt bike, right? And my buddy was going to this doctor, getting the prescriptions, getting the OCs, right? Getting the perks, and I remember asking him about it, and he was like, yeah, come on. And it was that easy. Like I
Right.
just called somebody,
Right.
right? I called somebody, and within like a week I had an appointment, and
Yeah.
I was in the store, and I had a prescription.
Boom.
Boom.
Yep.
And it's that quick to just get hooked. It was
Yeah.
that quick.
And for the people out there who don't understand, like who have never tried Oxycontin, like it is pharmaceutical grade heroin. Like
Yes.
for people who don't understand, like that's like walking into a doctor's office and them handing you a bag of brown powder and a spoon. It is
Yep.
genuinely like that. I mean, and
Yeah.
and what you just described of how simple it was during the massive opioid epidemic is facts. Like people nowadays don't understand how simple it was back then.
Yep. It was super simple to get it, man. And this is how I knew this was how I knew where like it was getting bad. Like I had a couple of friends that were on it, and they were like, you do not want to go down this route.
Oh, gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
I want to go down this route. Like this is once you're in, like we're talking demon time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it turns into a different person, and I'm just so hard-headed. I was just so hard-headed, you know what I mean? Like I didn't listen real good,
Right.
because I had my shit together.
Right.
I had a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this could happen to you,
but it ain't gonna happen to me.
Never happened to me.
I'm different.
How many times did we say that?
Yep.
That's you, right? But that's just not me.
Yep.
And I remember, man, when I started taking it, right? And do you remember when we were just talking about the first high when I smoked that blunt, right?
Yep.
Now I felt a different higher high. Had that pill.
Yep.
And now, guess what? What crept in? Some obsession that said, I don't want to feel no other way.
No other way
ever again.
Yep. Yep.
And we laugh about it because we could relate, obviously.
100%.
You know what I mean? But it's not funny because a lot of young kids don't know that that's just the addiction. That's that piece of your brain that just wants to change your perception on reality.
Yeah,
you know
100%.
I mean? Because you just don't feel comfortable at all, and so I chased that high for many years, you know what I mean? And this is where the DA started putting a lockdown on stuff, right? So a couple years go by, the DA starts locking it down.
Yep.
And I remember going to that doctor trying to go in for an appointment, and they kept rescheduling it. And finally I was like, I'm just gonna show up. I show up, and there was literally caution tape on the doctor's door. Like the DA,
so they straight raided him.
They raided him and locked him up.
Oh shit.
Raided him and locked him up.
Oh wow.
Yes.
And so now you no longer have your script available. What are you gonna do?
Right? What do?
Yeah.
You go to the dirty ass places to find it, right?
Oh yeah.
And so that's where it really started taking off, man, is where like, all right, now I need to find different sources. And when you're in that type of crowd, people know people, right?
Oh yeah.
So now I'm asking around, I'm like, hey, like, people are like, well, we don't have these pills now, but we could get you the next best thing. It's cheaper.
Yep.
And you get way higher, right? So now I start dabbling with actual heroin.
Right. Now, question, before you got to the heroin element, when you were using pills, were you ever actually making it through your script? Were you ever like, taking anything as directed, or addict from the jump, let's go?
No, let's go.
Gotcha. Checks out.
All the way in, maybe in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, maybe in the beginning I would take one here and there in the third. But then at the end, and most people, like, not just popping them, but now I'm trying to snort them, right?
Smoking them.
smoking them, right? I got the tutor. I don't know if people can relate to that. You know what I mean? So,
Bro, I used to have a pet egg and a tutor that I carried with me everywhere. One of them pet eggs for your fucking grimy ass feet, and would shave shit up with it. I'm relating so hard to the story, and it's so sad to think that like that was my life. Like if I left my house without that little pack, it didn't matter if I was going to a funeral, to work, to anything. I was turning around and going back to the house because nothing was happening without that.
Yeah, you're not leaving without the kit.
No, like I mean, and it's so crazy. Like now that we both have gotten, a few 24s away from that life, to look back on it. I mean, people out there might not think it's funny, but sometimes the only way to look back on it and not cry is to laugh. Because it is just like so, like that was my life. That was your life for so long. So now, but heroin's involved, man.
Yep. So now heroin's involved, right? And I'm over here smoking it, and it just wasn't doing the job like how I really want to feel, right? And I started hanging around that type of crowd where it's like, well, what do you do next? You know what I mean? And I started doing, I remember when it's like the invisible line, you know what I mean? Where you never want to cross. I'm never going to do that. Yes. And then I'll find yourself on the other side of the invisible line. Right. Yeah. Now I'm over here, shooting up. Right. Yeah. I'm using, IVs to get well. Right. And it was a vicious cycle for many years, constantly getting sick, constantly trying to get well, and that's just a quick rough draft. Right. Like I'm not going into no deep stories of how I affected friends, families, right? How I'm boosting to try to get my next fix, how I'm trying to always come up with the next lick, and we get caught in that vicious cycle, right?
100%.
Where it's like we don't know that we just don't know another way, right? Yeah. And then
completely,
and then you get comfortable in living that way for somehow.
Yeah, like I've talked about my story of it. Like every single day of my life was waking up dope sick, going to Walmart, walking through the parking lot to find a cash receipt, go inside, steal what was on that cash receipt, return it to get enough money to get well, not to get high, to get well. And that was every single day, except maybe one time I'd find a good cash receipt and I could have enough to maybe make it to the next day after that. But when we're in it, like anybody who hasn't experienced that is like normies out there that are listening to this right now are like, think like we're talking about living in another galaxy because it's so far beyond the realm of comprehension. But for somebody like you or I get it. Like I identify with that because that was me.
Right.
That was so many of us.
Yep. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And the thing is like, I was never a good, like, I'm just gonna stick to this and I'm gonna put it down. You know what I mean? Like now that I look back, I'm like, all right, well, the weed progressed slowly and surely. The liquor progressed slowly and surely. The blow progressed slowly. Everything progressed slowly and surely. It got me to the final state, right? Yeah. The final boss.
The final boss. The final Bowser in Mario World.
Yeah, and that final boss whooped my ass.
Wrecked you.
Right. And that's where coming to the other side of it was now at this point I have a son that was born around this active addiction, right? Somehow, some way we slipped out of CPS.
Gotcha.
Then now I have my daughter that's being born, but this time we didn't slip out of CPS. Right?
I went through that as well. Yes, sir.
Right. So now CPS is fully involved in my life, right? And thank God and shout out to all the moms and everything like that. You know what I mean? my mom was basically my biggest enabler. But
Same.
do what they do, right?
Yep.
You know, like I probably wouldn't have been here without her.
100%. 100%.
So moms did what they had to do, you know what I mean? And there was times where she loved me, and there was time where she pushed me away, and
Right.
rightfully so, you know. So at this point, CPS was involved, and I really couldn't stop using. And there would be times where she put us up in like weeklies or
Okay.
little budget suites.
Budget suites, Siegel suites. Yep.
Budget suites.
Yep. Yep.
And somehow, some way, like I was able to like get this little apartment,
Okay.
right? Hustle my way up to get an apartment with a couple of other people that co-signed, and we get a little lease, and I'm trying to get some things in order, and my daughter's born.
Okay.
My daughter's born. My son gets taken. My daughter's born. CPS is in our lives fully, and you would think like that was enough,
Right.
right?
You would think that would be like a rock bottom.
Like
right.
that would be like a rock bottom.
Right.
Like, come on, like this is it. Like it's time, you know. And sometimes I still suffer. Like I had to do a lot of work on this on myself for the daddy guilt, right?
100%.
A lot of that guilt still manifests itself sometimes in my life, you know. And like if I'm giving them everything, you know,
Right.
because he asked for a Nintendo Switch, I'm gonna buy you a Nintendo Switch, and not letting him work for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because of the daddy guilt, you
Right.
know, and all that stuff. And so like I've done a lot of work on it, but so going back is like, all right, CPS has taken my kids, right? I have a small window to straighten my life out, and I'm not taking full advantage of it, and I'm roaming the streets. So when CPS came, that was when it was just like, I don't care about nothing. It was almost like I wanted to die.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? It's very sad, you know, and a lot of people don't know that there's help out there.
Right. They don't know that there's another way.
There was literally help 1 block away.
You were that close to a meeting, huh?
That close,
Right.
you know, to recovery. I just didn't know any better,
Right.
you know? And I remember, you know, roaming the street. We lost the apartment, obviously,
Of course.
you know, and I'm roaming the streets for a while, you know, living from couch to couch or trap house to trap house. We're in Las Vegas, so it's casino to casino, bathrooms, and it was a really sad time in my life, man, you know. And I remember probably like a year passed, like they were in the custody of family members.
Right.
CPS was really pushing for our parental rights to be removed.
Right.
Yeah, like I wouldn't have no say so, right? And so what happened was I would go to court, I would talk, right? But I would change nothing. Like it was like empty words, like empty promises, you know.
And nothing changes if nothing changes.
You know, and then sure enough, what happened was like one day, like I got sick. Like I got real sick. And I was doing the most. I was getting sick, and I thought it was just like I had to get better. Like I thought it was withdrawals. Like
right, dope sickness. Right.
But it wasn't this time. It was like a fever. And I was like, oh, well, maybe it's, you know, IV users know it as cotton fever, you know?
Okay, got a little bit of cotton in the shot type of thing.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was different because I started losing the function to my legs.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't barely raise my hands anymore. And I remember this was in 2015, around August of 2015. And this is how crazy it is. This was like getting to the bottom, right? I'm literally in a G ride, which is a stolen car.
Yep.
Right. I'm in a stolen car, and I have a wheelchair on the passenger side. Right. I didn't steal the car. My buddy, let's just make that clear, right?
Okay.
Like I didn't steal the car.
Right.
My buddy took the car. I just drove it.
Right. Right.
So now, now I have a wheelchair, and I get to the casino over here, and the valet guy's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Absolutely. I just need help with my
Oh
wheelchair."
my God.
Losing the function to my legs, man. And sure enough, like
Dude.
the next day, like even the so-called friends, I call them victims and accomplices, right? They weren't friends.
Mm-hmm.
We all wanted something from each other, and
Yep.
that's it.
Yep.
Um, the next day, like they were like, "We're taking you to the hospital," right?
Wow.
And they literally like pick me up and like take me to the hospital.
Right.
They dropped me off, and I was so scared because it was like I couldn't stay awake. Like I
Oh
couldn't stay
shit.
awake, and I couldn't walk no more, and I could
Right.
barely hands, and I remember calling my mom, like just being so scared and be like, "Mom, like I'm in the hospital and I think I'm dying and I don't even know what to do." For looking back, I'm like, for a mom to get a phone call like that.
Yeah, I can't even, like, goosebumps, man.
Yeah.
Like
For a mom to get a phone call like that, like basically me saying my goodbyes,
right. Right.
and I remember falling asleep, Matt, and I didn't wake up, I promise you, almost 3 months later, bro. Like I woke up
coma status.
coma,
Holy
right? I
shit.
got pictures, like that's how I basically started my little TikTok.
Right. Right.
That's when people like I started speaking like who I am and what happened. It's because like I went to sleep, man, and I didn't wake up for 3 months, man. And what happened was that I called what's called endocarditis.
Okay.
So endocarditis is when a bacteria rushes to your heart, right? Like a foreign outside bacteria comes in. So basically, if you think about it,
IV.
and goes in, right?
Yeah.
It's the heart. Now the heart valve, there's a heart valve in there, right? That pumps. Well, this heart valve was severed and it was spitting poison everywhere.
Oh shit.
So that's why, like, basically, like my organs were shutting down.
Right. Right.
And so besides they had to do open heart surgery. Both of my lungs collapsed.
Oh wow.
And I had to do dialysis.
Wow. So your kidneys were like, nah, bro, we're done.
Yeah.
Your lungs were like, nah, bro, we're done.
Cycle this stuff, and I remember so my wife now, she back then, like she knew what the deal was, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna go into her story a lot, but she was a ride or die. She was out there with me, and so when she got to the hospital, they were like, this man has been doing opioids for a long time.
Right.
So they started giving me a little bit of message to like bring my blood pressure down.
Right.
And so I'm not detoxing while
you've got your organs shutting down. Okay.
Right. So they finally got my levels low to where now they could start bringing in a solution, and that's, they had to do the heart surgery and all that stuff. But like, there was a point where like the doctor told my mom, like, you might want to call in the family to say goodbye, and it was pretty scary because when I finally woke up, like my whole family was hovering above me.
Right. Right. I can't even imagine that. Like going to bed and waking up 3 months later. Like I just go to sleep now and wake up in the summertime.
Yeah,
like what?
Yeah. Like, bro, it was bad. Like I weighed like 70 pounds, I have bed sores and all that. And like, I just wanted apple juice.
Okay.
Like I woke up and I was just like, apple juice,
Okay.
I couldn't even say it. I was like, apple juice. Because I didn't even know how to talk no more.
Right. Right.
And they were like, well, Mr. Castro, you're gonna go ahead and have to take an ice chip first. You know what I'm saying?
You're like, just give me apple juice, damn it.
Yeah. So they give me the ice chips, and I had to learn how to rehabilitate myself.
Right.
With the help in there, and I remember that I was literally Sorry.
Also the pillow.
So I had to learn how to rehabilitate myself, and basically, you know, like you would think like it'd be like, all right, this is it, this is done, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I woke up with that like that stinking thinking, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I need to call, like I need to get one more, you know what I mean? And I lasted about like when I got out of the hospital, you know, and I took it slow, and I moved in with my mom for a little bit, and like somehow, some way I like manipulated and managed my way to like get kicked out one more time, you know.
Gotcha. Let me go on
Well,
one more run.
Not kicked out, see myself out. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
right.
And and I was out there for almost 9 months, and this is like nobody wanted to do anything with me because they were like, bro, like you just got out of
Right.
you almost just died.
You are a miracle right now.
You're a miracle right now. Like the doctor told me, like, don't waste this.
Right.
Like if you waste this, it like don't do that to yourself no more. You know what I mean? And
I think that's an interesting point, though, because, you know, again, for a normie that's listening to this right now, like that makes no sense. But I understand that completely, you know, and I
right.
know there will be plenty of people that hear this that understand that thought process of just one more, you know, just one more. This time's going to be different.
Yeah. So and here's the thing, like when people listen to my story, like some people like can't relate, but there's a power that comes with somebody's testimony, right?
Yeah.
Because like I don't let the past like define me no more.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I just spread a message, even if it helps one person, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, 100%.
So that I got out of the hospital around like November 2015, November, December. And I didn't get into recovery until November 28th of 2016.
Gotcha.
Right? So almost a year later, like I was still kind of roaming the streets. I was still, because I just didn't know any better, or I just wasn't willing to do anything different. You know what I mean? And when I got into recovery in November 28, 2016, like that's the most important date, right? Yeah. Besides my kids' birthdays and the anniversaries and this and that and the third, like my clean day, like I hold it so near and dear to my heart.
Yes.
Like it's mine. You know what I mean? Like this is all God's, but like that date, that's mine. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I feels that, bro. I feels.
I held that date, and I'm like, that's mine. You know, and I don't want to lose it, you know. Right. So when I got into recovery, man, I had to do a lot of soul searching, right? Like, why did I do Ely like that?
Right.
Like, why did you do that to yourself? Like, what do I suffer from, right? But most importantly, like, what's the solution now? Yeah. So as I went to a court date, they're about to terminate our rights, right? Okay. Like I'm still battling CPS somehow. And I go to court and I say, this is the first time where like, it was like, I almost put up the white flag. Like I surrendered. Yep. It was a real surrender, because I looked at the judge and I said, Judge, like I want to stop. I just don't know how to, like, I need help. Right. Right. Like I need help.
Ask for that help. Finally surrender. Yes.
I put my hands up to this thing, and all of a sudden, like he got me where I needed to go. Right. Right.
Surrender to win, like we always say.
Right. Surrender to win. And then so what happened was like I started going to like outpatient programs, right? I started the drug testing. Now I'm texting and emailing the CPS worker. Right.
Taking the initiative.
Right. But it was because like I had a mentor. Right. Some people call them sponsors, some people call them mentors, you know what I mean? So now I have somebody like in my ear showing me a better way of life, right? Showing me like what to do, right? Like I walked into a 12-step program, man, and put in some footwork, you know? And what happened was like I kept myself busy.
Yes.
Especially the first year. This is very important for people to hear, man. The first year, it is not rainbows and roses, right? Like sometimes it might be because it's such a new way of life, right? but then responsibilities start coming
showing up.
like responsibilities start coming in, right? Feelings start coming in, emotions start coming in, like, and we don't know how to handle a lot of it, right? Sometimes we lose people, right?
Oh yeah.
And so thank God that like I had people in my corner to kind of show me what to do, you know? And so like I kept battling CPS, and I kept doing the right thing for the right reason, man. And I'll tell you what, like this last Christmas, like this is our 4th year with the kids in our lives, full time.
Oh,
right?
bro, that's good. That's the juice right there. That's what recovery's about. Like becoming better human beings and doing better. Like, bro, I love that.
Like at first it was like I'm doing this for them, but then it turned around and it was like I'm doing this for me.
Yes.
Right. And because I started doing it for me, now they get to see a better dad.
And
right?
I love that you mentioned that, because so often you'll hear, especially early on in recovery, you know, or people coming in from treatment, they're like, I'm doing this for my wife, or I'm doing this for my kids. And we always talk about the fact that we have to do it for ourselves. If we're doing it for somebody else, it's not going to work. But when we do it for ourselves, everyone else gets the benefit of it as well.
Exactly. So, you know, the case finally closed. Like we started integrating them to come home, you know, and thank God I had a great drug court judge that was all for, it was like a CPS drug court judge, right?
Okay.
It was like, and they're all for parents getting their kids back, but you got to show them the willingness.
Right.
Like, and so thank God, like I was getting a job, getting a place, steady income, bank account, right? What is that? You know, just general stability.
Yeah.
Like just stability. They wanted to see stability and consistency. And me and my wife showed them that, right?
And it's so interesting because all of the things you listed are all of those things that normies are like, well, yeah, that's what you do. And for people like us, it's like, bro, I opened a bank account.
Yeah.
What? You know, like,
I got my driver's license. You know?
Right. Like,
it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's so true.
So yeah, man, because we just, our mind is so obsessive and compulsive, and I'm like out there, I was so self-centered, like I didn't care who I hurt, me, them, you know what I mean? Like so mentally, spiritually, and physically, like I was really hurting, right? And when you get into recovery, like the physical gets better, but the mental and spiritual, those are the ones that need a lot of maintenance, right? And so when a lot of people say like a grateful addict won't use, that's true, but here it is, like, because I'm so self-centered, like I'm always thinking about me, I had to learn how to care about other people now, right? I had to care about people, right? Like I got involved in the like service commitments, like helping other recovering addicts, you know, and the mental piece, like it's like, why am I so obsessive over these things, right? It was almost like back in the day, like when I used to eat frosted cereals. This was before the drugs, frosted flakes and all that stuff, you know what I mean? Like why did I need almost a whole jar of sugar in the cereal?
Right. For addicts, that shit shows up well before we put a drug inside of us.
So then I put the drugs down, man, and I realized like I'm batshit crazy.
Right.
That's crazy. You know what I mean? And so like because I've been out there so long, like I was living an animalistic level. Like now I get to recovery, like I need to treat myself and others with like respect and dignity, right? And I had to learn how to start being honest and no longer like lie or lie by omission. Some of us, you know, all that stuff, like like I just didn't want to tell you because I didn't want you to get angry. You know what I'm saying?
No, that was something I struggled with. I still struggle with at times. I mean, almost 4 years clean, and that complete honesty is still just like, sometimes.
and sometimes like honesty, the truth will do. You know what I mean?
There you go.
The truth will do, man. And so like I had to like start being willing to put in some footwork, you know. And so basically I've been working on myself this whole time, you know, and yeah, I'm human. Like we're all human. Like we're all gonna have a little bit of defects and here and there and the third. But I don't blow them out of proportion.
Okay.
Right? Like today, like I could when I'm wrong, like when I yell, right? When I'm out of character, right? Like I don't get to call nobody names no more. Like you a bitch, this, that. Oh fuck that. I don't get to do that today, even though I want to.
Right.
Don't do it.
Right.
Right. And somehow, some way, like when I'm able to see my wrong and be aware of it and make it right at the moment, it all starts to flow beautifully, man. One of the things that I really struggled with was like amending the relationships that I had with like my brothers,
Okay.
you know, and my mom. And my mom, like I've been amending that since day one. Right. And it's a beautiful thing. Like she doesn't have to, like, she'll call me here and there and be like, are you okay? What's going on? Because she was constantly in her head worried.
Oh, I get that. Oh, I get that.
Right. And so now it's like she knows that I'm okay.
Right.
Like we talk on a consistent basis where it's like like she doesn't have to worry about her baby boy no more.
Now, a question though, are there still those times where if you don't talk to her for a couple days, she might hit you a couple? Because I know for my mother, like we talk most days, whether, you know, I'm trying to or not. And if I don't answer for a day or two, it's like, what, you good? You good, bro?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Mom's gonna do what they gonna do, man. You know, she's still mom's. You know what I mean? She gets to worry, and I get to reassure her that everyeverything is fine
and continue to show that recovery works
and show her, right?
Yeah.
It's the consistency that that is showing her that I'm doing the right things. You know what I mean? And this last Thanksgiving, like so my mom lives in New York.
Right.
And my oldest brother, which is the most messed up relationship that I've had brother wise, like my middle brother, we're real close. We chop it up when I go to New York.
Okay.
This one was on the older side. He is real strict, like narrow, right?
Okay.
He wasn't for none of that BS I was doing.
Right. Okay.
Right. This last November 2021, like I set a goal. Right. Talking about goals in recovery.
Yes.
Like
Goals?
I set some goals at the beginning of the year, and that's what happened. I checked them all off the list, right? All of them. And one of the goals was that I was gonna go to Florida, in Orlando, where he was, and I was gonna make an amends to him.
Do your official ninth step right there.
Just bust it as person on my list, right? And it was holding me back somehow. It wasn't holding me back like in other areas, but like spiritually, like right here, like I just wanted to clean that wreckage of the past, right there. You know, so I was able to go out there, stay with him, took the kids. He got to see his nephews, got to see my wife, me. You know, we flew my mom out there. We're all in the house together. We're all like beautiful conversations, this and that and the third. And like I pulled him aside and I was like, man, this is when everybody fell asleep, right?
Right.
Oh, but that morning, like we all went to Disney World. Like I took my family to fucking Disney. Right. Like the gifts in recovery, man. Like I took them to Disney World. We went to a safari thing over there. We hung out with some gators. It was okay. So now it's the end of the night, and I want to talk to my brother, right? So we wait for everybody to go to sleep, and I'm like, man, I have to talk to you, you know. And I told him, like, you know, this is my part, and I'm sorry. I apologize that I wasn't the brother that you deserve. Okay. Right. And this is where I went wrong. And like, how can I make this up to you?
Right.
And this is, I promise you, this is exactly what he said. He said, I am super happy and grateful for how you're doing. Like, you are
Right.
the man that you deserve to be today, right? The only thing that I have wrong was when you were in the hospital, Mom was in the corner of the waiting room for 3 months. She would not leave.
Oh, wow.
She had her candles, right? Because I'm Hispanic, you know,
Right.
she had little candles or little angel candles. She had a little cardboard sleeping thing with like blankets, pillows, and everybody knew my mom.
Wow.
Like, she made friends with everybody in there,
Right.
right? She was like, and just seeing Mom sleeping there, and I'm getting emotional talking about it.
Yeah.
He was like, seeing Mom like that for a son that almost passed away is like mind blowing. Like,
Right.
moms would go to the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, I just didn't like that she was sleeping there for months and that you got her there
To that point.
at that point.
Right.
And I said, and I told him, I said, well, I apologize, man, and like, that won't happen again just for today.
Right. Just for
Right?
today.
Just for today, that won't happen again.
Yeah.
You know? And so then it turned around and we started getting even more open.
Okay.
Like, that's the real beauty of it,
Yep.
is that now I'm tearing up, I'm crying. Grown men, he's in his 40s, I'm in my old 30s, grown men crying. And he starts reflecting on his life,
Right.
on being a dad. Like, when if for any reason that time calls, like, he said, will I be in the same situation? Will I sit down
Wow.
like that, right?
Right.
And so, and I was like how God works in such
Mysterious ways.
because he was having a little falling out with his son at the moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so he was like, I don't hold no grudges with you, man. I'm just super proud of the man that you have become, and keep doing it.
I love that, man. I love that so much. And I mean, and I love the hope that is in your story, because I know so many of us out there who have absolutely burned the bridges, taken the ashes from that bridge, stomped on it, like to such a level. And to hear that, like, that is, you know, one of the most beautiful things of recovery. It's like you said, it's not just about what we change, but when other people, and then having the opportunity to be there and open up somebody's eyes, you know, that to me is that's what I love about doing this podcast, about going to meetings, about sharing my story, because we never know when we're going to help somebody.
Absolutely.
We never know, man.
You just never know. You know,
No.
I've heard people be like, I heard you. This was, and I haven't seen them in years. They're like, you're one of the people that I heard share coming into a treatment facility.
Yeah. I mean,
or you're one of the people share when I went to my first meeting, like Matthew.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the people where I first came in recovery and I saw you doing the thing, and like, it was attractive, you know, like that change that happens within us, you know what I mean? When we're doing better, when we're being better people, you know, it attracts people to become better, you know. And
I love it.
My mom calls me and is like, you need to call your middle brother, or like, if she needs help financially, like, I'm there. Like, she's the one that calls me for like advice on certain things.
Right. I know.
You know
I love that so much, because I've had that conversation with so many people where like people are coming to me to ask.
Right.
Wait, what?
I'm a dope fiend.
Right? You know who I
But
was? Like,
the difference is, like, I'm just a old dope fiend that's in recovery, you know what I mean? And I choose to live my life differently today, you know?
No, and that's what it's all about. So I'm curious, like, what does your recovery today kind of look like? You know, just what would you say your normal week, or just in general?
Yeah. So that's, I have to stay real vigilant in my recovery, because them old thinking patterns and ideas could come back, right? So even if it's I'm vigilant in a 12-step program, right? but I go to meetings, even if it's with this whole pandemic thing, things have changed where people have gone virtual, right?
That part. Yep.
I found 1 or 2 physical meetings that I like going to where I just sit down, I listen, I hear other people's stories and testimonies, and I'm able to share how I'm feeling, because honest sharing is an antidote, I believe, to my disease thinking.
Yes.
Right? And so now, like, I have a little routine where I go do that, and I'm of service in somehow, some way, in helping God's children.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't. It might be through the internet, right? It might be through social media. It might be physically, right, in a treatment facility, right?
Carrying the message, right?
Carrying the message to another addict still suffering. Like, anything that I could do to be of service to God's children, like, I'm there, right? And somehow, some way, when I'm like giving back, like, the universe just brings abundance to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people need to hear that. Like, when you start doing selfless things and like helping other people, for some reason the universe will return it in abundance.
Not doing it for the
Not
likes, not trying
clout
to be
or ego.
just
Because
selfless.
it's a good thing to do out of your heart.
Yeah,
right?
doing the right thing when no one's watching,
When
for the
no
right
one's
reasons. Yep.
And all of a sudden, like, God shows up and brings abundance to your life,
Yeah.
right? And that's how I live my life, you know what I mean? And I've set traditions with my family, you know, and I got a really good career right now, where it's like uncharted territories, but like, I love it.
Right.
I love it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm breaking generational curses, like, financially, you know, like this year, like, tomorrow is Monday. I'm about to pull the trigger on running my credit for my first home purchase.
Oh shit! Wait, hold up. You're telling me that the dope fiend who was essentially dead on a fucking hospital bed is looking at a home purchase? My man, brother.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
that is such a shot of hope, because
Yeah.
I know my home group here in Arizona now, we get a lot of people that are early on and don't see a way out, and to hear a message like yours that we do recovery is possible, man.
Yes.
Like,
it doesn't matter where. It could be from the dope fiend snatching purses, the junkie snatching purses, to the old lady going to 2 or 3 doctors to fill a prescription. It don't matter where you came from, right? What matters is the feelings, the bottom that you felt within you that called for help, you know? And once you get help and you start changing your life, now beautiful things start to happen, right? And so personally, like, I've been setting some goals and I've been trying to achieve them, but I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's simple. Right?
It's simple program.
Simple.
It's never easy, but
it's simple. And so lately I've been in a lot of fear, but that's just because I'm in fear of the unknown. Like, I just don't know what's happening. Right. Like, I don't like losing control. And so, like, I was talking to my mentor, and so he was like, well, it's because you haven't surrendered it yet.
Seems like you got to turn that fear into faith, my brother.
And he was like, you just haven't surrendered it. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you need to put your hands up like you did to the drugs, right? And then you have faith that because you did the right thing for the right reason, now things start to happen. So that's what I did. Like, I put my hands up and I said, I'm just gonna continue to do one thing at a time.
Right.
Have a little bit more faith in the process, and life is beautiful today, man.
I love that. I love that so much. One other question I want to drop, because now you've got some time in the program, my brother. You got over 5 years now, right?
Yep, 5 years, both kids at home.
Right, like you've established a life because of what you've done in recovery. Now, I'm curious, what is something that you would, I don't want to say piece of advice, because we don't like giving advice. We like giving suggestions. But what is something that, to maybe the listener or the viewer out there right now who's like almost ready for their day one? What would be maybe a suggestion that you bestow on them?
The best thing that I could say, man, is like, you have to want it, right? Even though you don't know that you want it, but like, you have to ask for help, right? the minute you ask for help and you actually tell people what's going on in your life instead of keeping it a secret,
Right.
because it's not really a secret.
To anybody else.
Everybody knows but you.
Right.
So it's not a secret. When you start asking for help and letting the help you, things will change, but you have to be willing to put the footwork in, right?
I love that you said that, because it's something, you hear a lot of people say that, oh, this is for people who need it. No, recovery is not for people who need it. Sadly, it is for the people who want it and the people who will do it.
And do it.
Because there are so many people that need it that will never walk through the doors, that never are able to. But having that initial want, and like you said, that honesty, man, I love that, man. I really appreciate, this all of this. I have one more question for you before we wrap up. And this is a serious question right now.
Yeah.
Bruh, why are you so good on TikTok, bruh? Bruh, like anybody who's been a viewer of this podcast knows that for 39 episodes, I said I would never be on TikTok. I said I would never do it. And finally, on episode 40, I announced that I downloaded TikTok and I'm officially on TikTok. And I'm struggling, bro. I'm struggling. And then I see my boy Ely C's page, and he's got all the filters. He's got all the text. He's got all the clips and the overlays of sounds. He's out here looking like damn Daniel Mack with his shit. His TikTok is so wet. Y'all need to go follow him, and I need to be like him. How'd you get so good, bro?
Oh, this is exactly what I did. So by the way, it's E.Castro 104. Y'all can always go follow me.
Follow him. It'll be below in the description. So you follow him for sure. Tell me though.
So I just started, you'd be surprised how YouTube can help you with so much information. You know what I mean? And started learning how to use the timer, right?
Okay.
To how to transition to the next thing. I started learning how to use some of the filters that are on there, you have to get a ring light. That's a must. If you're on TikTok, you need a ring light, right? Yes, you got to get the ring light. You got to have this little fancy thing behind you right here, you know? And it took me a while, man. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of my page, you're gonna see the epic like beginning where it's like I have no idea what I'm doing. TikTok's like recovery. Basically, the more you're in there, the more you put the footwork, the better you get.
Yes, sir.
So this is the most important thing. You have to find your niche.
Right.
The niche is, who are you as a person? Right? What do you like and what you don't like? Right? When you start announcing or saying or doing things that you like. So for example, me, recovery, like I like recovery, I like helping people, and I like comedy, right? So I've learned how to integrate both of those things, and I like dancing.
Right, I know, man. You out here like
I got some dance moves,
one of the Bellas or something. Like you get it all. Yeah.
And so I've learned how to utilize it, and the algorithm will literally get you to the places you need to go where people are like that. And you have to use like trending sounds.
Right. I know. You were right on there with them things, man. Like I don't even know where to find those sounds, and you already got the next trend up.
When you're scrolling and you see like this song and it has a lot of views, when the little circle thing that's on the bottom right of your phone and it's spinning, click on it and you say, try this sound.
All right. So I'm getting a little bit of the preview, but I'm telling you right now, we're going to be talking offline, because I'm already deciding recovery. I'm all about that. We got Marvel. I'm all about that. So yeah, I'm thinking, I mean, the wheels are turning, bro. So we're going to be talking a lot more.
And you
offline.
got a podcast? Come on.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We go. Yo, I'm calling it 2022 TikTok takeover. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yo, I love it. I love you, brother. I really appreciate you coming through, hanging out here in the lab on the Clean and Filthy podcast. Again, let them know where they can find you on TikTok, anything else. And, again, thank you so much. So tell them where they can find you.
On Instagram, you go ahead and look me up, Dominican Castro. Facebook, Ely Castro. That's ELYCAR space CASTRO. Or on TikTok, go ahead and put e.castro104, and you could go ahead and find me on any one of those platforms. I'm always here to lend a helping hand for recovery. DM me if you need any type of special resources for help, for recovery, anything in that nature, or even if you need a lending ear. I'm always here as well. All right, folks.
Yeah.
God bless every one of y'all. I hope y'all stay safe. And thank you for letting me be here, guys.
Yo, man, thank you so much again, brother. Like, real talk, from the beginning of my recovery, you've always been just a legit dude. Even like at events that I didn't feel comfortable, you always made me feel comfortable. You always invited me to go. And we are back out the lab. Huge shout out to my boy Ely C, coming through with that fire, experience, strength, and hope all the way from Vegas. Really, really appreciate you coming through, man. That was a lot of fun. It's always fun to talk to one of my predecessors that, I've known since the jump, who's known me since the jump. Seriously, check him out. I've got all the links below in the description with his Facebook, his Instagram, his TikTok. He's got fire content on there. Seriously, check him out. It's very well done. I cannot front. I'm taking notes. I scroll through his feed and I'm like, okay. So that's what I got to do. Okay. So check him out below. All the information there. And huge shout out again. Thank you, Ely, for coming through and sharing your experience, strength, and hope, my brother. So now it is time to hop out the lab. We are done with our first segment, and it is time to get into our second segment of the week, entitled My Favorite Moment of the Week. And while we are not officially sponsored by Bang Energy yet, we got to do that free ad read. We actually switched it up today. We switched it up. We are drinking the delicious Cherry Blade Lemonade today. It's usually my morning flavor, but my brain wasn't braining, and I forgot to put one in the fridge. So we drank key lime this morning. We got a Cherry Blade Lemonade for the afternoon. Crack a bang, hang out here on the Clean and Filthy podcast. Get you 300 milligrams of caffeine, some Ultra CoQ10 EAA amino super creatine, and get hype. Bang, sponsor me, y'all. Like, why not? Sponsor me. Just sponsor me, y'all. Let's do it. All right, so that's what we got. We had to do our quick ad read there. This is the part of the show where we talk about something that has occurred over the last week. We talk about something that I experienced over the last week and why it was my favorite moment of the week. This is not about direct experience, strength, and hope, though we do discuss some of that as well. This is not about direct recovery, though we discuss some of that as well. This is just talking about cool shit that's happened over the last week, and I like to discuss it. We talk about a lot of sports. We talk about a lot of Marvel. We talk about a lot of movies, music, TV shows, TikTok. Yeah, bruh. We talk about TikTok here. So that's what we do in this segment of the show. Before we go on, we got another double rest in peace shout out. This week, we've got Sidney Poitier, absolute icon of the film industry, passed away about a week and a half ago, and Bob Saget, Full House legend. Amazing cameo in Half Baked. Very funny comedian, passed away over the past week. So big rest in peace shout out to both of them. We got to do our weekly fitness update because we do it every week. This isn't for y'all. This is for me. Help keep me accountable. My current weight is 210 pounds, up from last time. Unfortunate, but there's reason for that. I hadn't worked out in 2 weeks. Plus, I was in COVID protocol, so I ate like trash. More on that momentarily, a little later on in the segment. But I officially got back into the gym yesterday. Gotta say, taking 2 weeks off of gymming and then getting back into gymming sucks. It sucks. But we're back at it, back really tightening it up. Summertime's coming, yo, and I'm determined. we got to have a six pack, or at least a outline of something. Maybe not a six pack, something. That's what we're going with. Also, we're going to talk about it more in our next segment. But The Weeknd dropped a new album called Dawn FM. Also, then the alternate world version that had some remixes on it. We're going to discuss that in the next segment, so we aren't going to go into it right now. But speaking of music, Kanye West dropped the song Easy with The Game. For me, it was kind of meh, but there was pictures put up of him in the lab with A$AP Rocky and Pusha T. Yeah. I'm so here for it. If it is a possible collab, I'm so here for it. So here for it. Moving on to our TikTok update. We got to do a little TikTok update, at least until your boy's TikTok page is wet. Till my TikTok page is out here looking like Ely C's. But I don't have any content on there yet. I will say lowest key, editing and collecting content is a lot. Like, it's a lot. So I've been editing and I've been saving things in drafts so that I have more than one TikTok to release, because I don't want to just put one up and then not put anything up. I don't want my shit to go super dry. So we're building up the foundation, and then we're going to be disseminating it accordingly. My For You page is actually starting to take a little bit of shape, so that's pretty cool. So please keep sending me TikToks. Again, my handle is @CleanAndFilthy Podcast. Send it over so we can get my TikTok popping, y'all. Real quick, got to do a quick TV thing, because Atlanta Season 3 officially has a release date, finally, of March 24th. Oh, my God, I'm so excited. If you don't watch Atlanta, I highly recommend it. Shout out Childish Gambino. Shout out Donald Glover. Shout out Lakeith Stanfield. Shout out Brian Tyree Henry. So excited for Season 3. Also, can we start a petition to get Lakeith Stanfield into the MCU? Can we get him an MCU role? Because Donald Glover has already been in the MCU. Brian Tyree Henry had a pretty major part in the MCU. But Lakeith, he isn't there yet. We need him there. So right now, I'm calling it. We need to have some type of. We need him in the MCU. I don't care what the role is. Just get him into the MCU. Speaking of Marvel, the Moon Knight trailer dropped last night, y'all, and it looks fire. It looks so good. I just got goosebumps thinking about it. It looks so good. It's the next show up on Disney+. It's officially dropping 6 episodes March 30th, starring Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. He's not a super-duper well-known mainstream character, but the character itself is very, very in-depth. He suffers from dissociative identity disease. He has some ties to ancient Egyptian god. And the trailer alone means the possibility of a Black Knight tie-in, of a Blade tie-in, and possibly even a Ghost Rider tie-in. So I'm so here for it. I'm so excited. Super shout out to that amazing trailer. Also, I watched Hit Monkey, another Marvel show. It was on Hulu. Streaming on Hulu, a Hulu original, kind of like MODOK was. It's starring Jason Sudeikis and Olivia Munn, or at least their voices. Olivia Munn, sorry. I'll say I knew almost nothing about the character of Hit Monkey other than very minor Deadpool references and Deadpool connection in the past. It was very unlike MODOK, which had a constant standard Marvel character development and involvement plus AIM. So it really didn't feel like I was watching a Marvel show, but it was entertaining. It was entertaining, and at the end of the day, it was still Marvel content for me to consume. So we got to get into it a little bit today because it was nuts. First off, the Ravens lost. Spoiler alert, Ravens lost, so no playoffs for the Ravens. So that crazy 2% chance that maybe, possibly, somehow, some way the Ravens might make the playoffs, all they had to do, they had to at least beat the Steelers. They did not, so they didn't make it. But the one craziest thing of that entire parlay potential was the Jags actually beating the Colts, and they did. So now there's no playoffs for the Colts. Talk about a crumble there. And the best game of the entire NFL season was the last game of the entire NFL season. The Raiders versus the Chargers. Raiders winning it in overtime. I was live texting with a couple of my boys, especially my one boy Mark, friend of the show, who's a huge Raiders fan. So going back and forth with him was really exciting. I got to admit, that I was really, really hoping that that they would just tie in overtime so that the Steelers wouldn't get into the playoffs. But that's a resentment. So that wasn't healthy thinking. Also, Justin Herbert will be league MVP within the next 5 years. Write it, cash it in. The dude is nuts. But the fact that the playoffs weren't decided until overtime of the last game of the season, to me, that's as good as it gets, right? Like, that's as good as you can hope for from just an NFL season. So then we get to the Super Wild Card Weekend, which, other than the 49ers beating Dallas, which was glorious, I will say, shout out to Stephen A. Smith for his yearly blasting of the Cowboys, the rest of the games were rather meh. Like, sure, the Raiders could have beaten Cincy, but nothing else was even close. And very sadly, that involves the Cardinals getting smashed by the Rams 34-11. And even though the Cardinals hadn't looked good over the last 6 weeks, there were some things in there, possibilities. You know, maybe we would win this because it was on the road and we went 8-1 on the road during the season. And J.J. Watt and Chase Edmonds and James Conner were all back. And it was going to be the first ever Monday Night Football game within the playoffs. Everything was lining up that maybe we would, we could win. And oh my God, we got fucking outclassed.
That part.
Seriously. Kyler Murray played very probably the worst possible game he has as a pro in his first playoff game.
That part.
And at one point, Odell Beckham Jr., the wide receiver for the Rams, had more passing yards than Kyler Murray, the quarterback for the Cardinals.
That part.
Their defense absolutely mauled us. We didn't convert an entire we didn't convert a third. We did not convert a third down the entire game. We had 8 consecutive drives that resulted in 0 first downs, a fumble, or an interception. That was the longest sent streak to open a playoff game in 40-plus years. The only positives in the game were The Rock joined Eli and Peyton for part of the second half. Shout out to Dwayne Johnson. The Rock is everything. If you smell what The Rock is cooking. Absolutely loved him. And also the aforementioned Moon Knight trailer. That was by far the highlight of the game. Also, it had one of the scariest moments of the year. Pro Bowl safety Budda Baker for the Cardinals had to be carted off after getting just completely knocked out. And anytime you have to, you see somebody getting carted off and they're laying on a stretcher, oh my God, it's just like, it's so horrible. But he was taken to the hospital, stayed the night at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in LA, and was able to fly home today. Says he's going to make a full recovery. Shout out to him. Prayers to him. Really hope that he's all right. Literally, the game was awful. And now there's 8 teams remaining, and I genuinely can't stand any of them. So it's almost like my NFL season's kind of over. Like, I'm still going to watch the games, but I have no rooting interest in anybody. Like, at least if the Raiders would have won, I would have been like, oh, I'll cheer for them because they have 2 addicts in recovery, and my boy Mark likes them. But, like, if Philly had won, I would have been like, hey, yeah, Philly, the probably second worst team in the entire playoffs. Go Philly. But nobody's left. So I guess go Bills, because the Bills Mafia is cool, and I like Benny the Butcher and the rest of Griselda as rappers, and they're from Buffalo. So go Bills? ? I don't know. It was it was a rough weekend of football. But my actual favorite moment of the week comes from changing my perspective on a negative. So to give a little background, anybody who follows me on social media or follows this podcast on social media knows that I was in COVID protocol for the last week, hence why there was no episode last week. I woke up Monday before this past one showing symptoms. I had a sore throat. I had a raised temperature. I had chills and fatigue and like all the standard Omicron vibes. All of the things that literally 14 people that I knew who currently had COVID all were showing. So I'm like, I've got COVID. And mind you, I also had my son. Monday was the day I was going to be returning him. So now I'm showing symptoms. And I'm full of fear. And I'm full of worry. I'm full of like, my son seems fine. But how do I keep him safe? How do I not expose more people? The unknowns of the pandemic are still and like one of the most difficult things of it. It's because we don't know. I don't know if I have COVID. I don't know if he's exposed. I don't know if he's already got it and he's not showing symptoms. There's just so much unknown. So after multiple tests, wearing a mask at home for the entire time that I'm around him, when he wants to come up and, cuddle and give me a hug, and I'm kind of, trying to do that, but still keep him safe, man. It was stressful. And Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, I was not feeling good. My fatigue was kicking my ass. And I just was not feeling well at all. But I got to give my son, my little 3.5-year-old son, a shout out because he was the real MVP, man. He was the real MVP. When Daddy wasn't feeling good on Monday, he got it. He would run back to my room where I'm laying down. He's like, "Hey, Daddy, come play." I'm like, Daddy's not feeling too good. He's like, "Okay." And then he'd run back 5 minutes later. "Daddy's feeling good?" I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm not feeling the best." But he was understanding of it, and I couldn't have asked for a better son. And while originally, I was like, I felt this ego of like, fuck, I got COVID. After 2 years of not getting COVID, I got COVID. And I felt like this weird ego hit that I had COVID. Then I proceeded to have 3 negative tests, tested negative for the flu, tested negative for strep, and my symptoms went away by Thursday. So apparently, I didn't even get COVID. As the memes are going around, I felt all of them to my soul. It's like, man, COVID didn't even want me. Like, I couldn't even get COVID. I got the Kirkland brand, Kroger brand winter sickness. I didn't even get COVID. So then I'm like, man, I took a whole fucking week off of life, and I didn't even get fucking COVID? That's some bullshit. That was where my thought process went to. But then when I realized, I took a little second to reflect on it, and I got to realize the fact that sure, I didn't get to go to the gym, or I didn't get to see people, or I didn't get to, go to work or be in my normal life. I got to spend 10 straight days with my son. I got to spend 10 straight days watching him grow, watching him become a whole person. And sometimes when I would have him, when I normally have him every other weekend type of thing, I don't get to watch the growth in that moment. And I literally got to watch communication development over 10 days. I got to watch learning occur during those 10 days. And I got to spend true quality time with him. Sure, I felt like absolute garbage for a couple of those days. And sure, it wasn't the best situation on Monday and Tuesday and part of Wednesday. But the rest of the time, I got to be a parent and enjoy every moment of every second with him. Granted, I was wearing a mask the whole time, but I was able to keep him healthy. And he didn't end up with the Kirkland Kroger brand winter sickness like I did. He was happy. He was alive. He was learning. And that is a beautiful gift, especially when pretty soon here, he's going to be starting school. He's going to be starting school, and having those blocks of time are going to be few and far between. So what originally started as this whole like, man, fuck, I had to take a week off of life. and I didn't even have COVID, type of thing, turned into I got to be a father. A full-time, every second from when he woke up to when he went to sleep each night, father. And was it stressful trying to make sure he was safe? Was it stressful not leaving my house for full days? Was it stressful every time, I would go near him, making sure my mask was affixed properly, making sure everything was cleaned and sanitizer was sanitized? And yes, but I got to do it. And it was a beautiful experience. It was a beautiful experience to be able to walk through that. And I'm very happy about that. So my favorite moment of the week was the fact that I didn't get COVID, and that ego came back. Like, yeah, I still haven't gotten COVID, y'all. Now that I said that, I'm sure. The line is thinning of people who haven't gotten COVID, and Omicron is contagious as hell. So hopefully your boy stays safe. Hopefully everybody out there stays safe. Literally, I knew 14 different people who had COVID last week. And thankfully, myself was not one of them, nor was my son. So that's what we got for my favorite moment of the week. A little bit different. I know it's usually like a specific thing, but being in COVID protocol, there really wasn't a whole lot going on. So I got to build some cool monster trucks. We did some awesome jumps, and I learned a lot about not just Paw Patrol, but I think like PJ somethings. I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess I didn't learn that much about it. So that's what we have for this part of our segment of my favorite moment of the week. Check back on our next episode. We're going to be talking about more fun shit, because I like talking about fun shit in my life. I like talking about life being good. And it is. So that's what we talk about here. And now it is time to get into our third segment of the week, entitled Ask an Addict.
It's time to Ask an Addict with your host, Matthew M.
That's right. It is time for Ask an Addict. This is the segment of the show where the resident addict for the Clean and Filthy podcast, myself, Matthew M., answers questions submitted by our listeners and our viewers. These do not have to be recovery-related questions. They can be questions about anything. This is essentially a Reddit AMA. Ask me anything. I like answering questions, so if you have questions that you want to hear me talk about, send them over. Email them, Matthew at CleanAndFilthyPodcast.com, or send them on any and all social media, because like I said, we're on all of them. Got some cool questions today. We're going to get into it. One of the things that we talked about in Favorite Moment of the Week, we'll get to as well. So first question was, what are my New Year's resolutions? So this is a new thing for me, because growing up, I did New Year's resolutions religiously. Every single year it was meeting with the family, and here are my New Year's resolutions for this year, and yada, yada, yada. That was the vibe. But I got to say that now that I'm in recovery, now that I'm living a different lifestyle than I ever did before, I personally don't really believe in New Year's resolutions. Because one of the things that recovery teaches us how to do is to be able to identify areas of concern or character defects or problem areas and do the corrective action needed for them immediately. It allows us to grow immediately. Like if I was putting together a list of of my character defects and was like, I'm not going to worry about those until next year's New Year's resolutions, that just doesn't align with my goal to become a better human being each and every day. And I'm not saying that I always succeed at that. I'm not saying I don't fall short at times. But by being in recovery, I have the opportunity every single day to grow. So if I want to make a resolution to do something, then let's go. Let's do it. I don't need to worry about it being January 1st, start off the new year. No, let's do it. Let's set a goal. Let's achieve it, just like Ely was talking about. So for me, I don't really vibe with New Year's resolutions. Thank you for the question, though. Next question. So we talk about my favorite moment of the week, and this is a fun question because it's tied into that. It says, "What was your favorite moment of 2021?" Now, as we talk about every single week, I like talking about fun stuff that occurs in life. I like talking about the joy of recovery and the joy of the life that I have built within the last almost 4 years because of being in recovery. So even with a global pandemic, there were some really, really good moments. There were some really good experiences over the last year, over 2021. And we can look at it from a bunch of different topics. One of them is recovery. You know, I got 3 years clean. I became vice chair of my area. I helped entertain a regional convention by being a regional subcommittee chair. You know, I got to spend lots of time with my son, like we just talked about. You know, watching him like actually turn into a real human, like watching him learn and grow his own identity, being able to communicate, being able to take him trick-or-treating, to have that moment to where being a parent doesn't feel scary anymore, which for the first 2.5 to 3 years, it was pretty terrifying. And getting to that point of feeling good and comfortable, it was a beautiful feeling. I also took some amazing adventures and trips over the last year. Went to White Sands in New Mexico, went up to Flagstaff a few times, went to Payson multiple times, went to Sedona, and countless other random adventures. You know, I started a podcast in 2021. Thanks, y'all. We're still here, still doing our thing. What up? I've had some, you know, incredible sports moments over the last year. We've had some incredible Marvel moments, all things that we talked about multiple times on this podcast in my favorite moment of the week. But my absolute favorite moment of the week was something that we've discussed a lot on this show, so we ain't going to go too deep into it, but was the Millennium Trilogy concert weekend in Las Vegas. Because not only was the concert absolutely once in a lifetime great, as was well documented in episode 21 of the Clean and Filthy podcast. Head back there if you're curious. But there were so many more elements to it as well. You know, I got to meet one of my now best friends, my boy Yehuda. I never met the dude before that. And now he's one of my absolute best friends. You know, that whole element of road tripping to Vegas and then being in Vegas and walking the strip and just the vibe of the whole weekend. Then you add the concert and how truly mind-blowingly good it was, how much of a damn spiritual experience it was, and that was my favorite moment of 2021. So thank you for that question. I really like that question. And the third question, as I, you know, dropped a little breadcrumb to earlier, was what is my opinion of the Weeknd's new album, Dawn FM, Alternate Worlds. So this is Abel's 5th studio release. And right off the top, it's nonstop 80s style, electronic, pop synths, dance pop, drum lines. Like one of my boys said this quote, and it said, "The new Weeknd album sounds like what Daft Punk was doing 20 years ago, and I'm totally here for it." You know, it features production from Max Martin, OPN, Swedish House Mafia, and Calvin Harris. And overall, it was a very well done album. So I'm going to talk about what I liked about it first. I love concept albums. I love concept albums. I always have, and this is a hardcore concept album. The exact description of it was listening to a retro pop radio station in purgatory on a journey toward the light at the end of the tunnel. And that radio station's DJ is Jim Carrey. That's the vibe of the whole album. It feels like the most conceptually complete album since House of Balloons, in my opinion, with how it flows together. The song on there, Is There Someone Else, is my absolute favorite track. The beat, the sample, the keyboards, all straight goosebumps. Mwah. Fire, fire, fire. Plus the EDM remixes that were included are also fire. And like the pulsing synths felt like my ears should have had like a strobe epilepsy warning. Loved that. Plus, I really liked seeing the progression and growth from The Weeknd as an artist. You know, he's always been known for bragging about his constant infidelities in the past. And now on this album, he has a song talking about not wanting someone because he found out that she was married. Like it's such a different vibe from what he used to be. Which leads to what I initially didn't like about the album. When I first listened to it, my first time through, my first thought process was, man, that wasn't House of Balloons. Man, that wasn't The Hills Have Eyes, or even, Starboy style Weekend. It wasn't super dark and creepy and braggadocious and incredibly sexual style that I first immediately loved about House of Balloons, his first album. And instead, it was much happier sounding, with happier sounding chord progressions and happier sounding production, much more happy pop sounding, which leads to an interesting thought process. Because I'm constantly attempting to grow as a human being, right? We talk about one of my favorite things about recovery is the ability to continually be able to grow. So why would I not want that for an artist that I support and have supported for over 10 years? Why would I not want that? Because he isn't the same artist that he was 10 years ago when he was a 21-year-old kid. And if his music had stayed the same, in my opinion, that would discredit his abilities as an artist. So even though my first thought was, man, I want more Glass Table Girls. Man, I want more Party in the After Party. Man, I want more loft music. Even though that was my first thought process, I realized that taking a step back and looking at it, that was simply expectation. That was expectation that to go back to something from 10 years ago, which isn't growth. So I had initial dislikes, but after listening to the album a few more times, they're gone away. I will say it was a very solid, full play album. Listen to the whole album. There aren't a lot of songs that I'm like, oh my God, I want to go listen to that song, other than Is There Someone Else? That's my go-to on the album. But the album as a whole, there aren't songs that I skip. Pretty much like his entire catalog has. So I don't know where I would rate it based on his other releases, but very well done album. I really liked it. Shout out to The Weeknd. Go check it out. Go download it. Go listen to it. Shout out to Abel. You a beast. So that's what we got for this week of Ask an Addict. If you have any other questions that you would like to have answered by the resident addict here, make sure send them over MatthewCleanAndFilthyPodcast.com or any social media possible link. We're on all of them. Yes. All right. Well, we are almost out of time, but we can't close up without them clean time shout outs. This is the part of the show where we recognize various members for continuous recovery. We shout out all of the universally recognized milestones, which is anybody with 29 days or less clean as a newcomer, anybody with 30 days clean, 60 days clean, 90 days clean, 6 months clean, 9 months clean, 1 whole year clean, 18 months clean, or multiple years clean. We also give shout outs for big whole numbers. So 100 days, 500 days, 1,000 days, 50,000 days. We give shout outs for all of them. And we give them boops for each year. So do not be fearful if you hear some boops happening. First and foremost, most important person always is the newcomer. And this week as a newcomer, we've got my boy David B. Well done, brother. Glad you're back. Next up with 1 year clean, we got my sponsee brother Todd O. And next up with 3 years clean, we've got my sponsee Eric F. Any addict, baby. Next up with 4 years clean, we're going out to Vegas. We got my boy Jason B. Next with 5 years clean, we've got DJ J. Next with 5 years clean, we've got Sean O. Next, we're going to Facebook with 6 years clean. We've got Kendra K. We're staying on Facebook, and with 7 years clean, we've got Matt McL. Next up, also with 7 years clean, we got one of the manly Marvel men himself, my boy Jonathan. Next up, we going into double digits with 10 years clean, my boy Miles Z. And next with 12 years clean, we've got Diana P. Well done. Woo, got to reload. All right, and next up with 14 years clean, we've got Alfie F. We'll get another one in there. I ran out. All right, we got a super reload for this one. And finally, with 31 years clean, we've got George J. Well done, everybody. Congratulations, everybody who celebrated Clean Time today. If you didn't, don't use and you will. That is literally how it works. And remember that every day clean is a successful day.
That part.
Right?
That part.
All right, y'all. Well, we are officially at the end of our show. Again, a huge thank you to Ely C for coming through, sharing his experience, strength, and hope. Make sure to check out all of his links below for all of his content. Got to give a big thank you again to all of our VIP supporters. Got to give another thank you for this gorgeous song in my ears right now. Huge shout out to Mad Decent Records. Huge shout out Valentino Khan, Alice in Wonderland. Check out the song below. Make sure that you have downloaded all of our previous episodes wherever you consume your podcasts from. Make sure that you're following us on all social media, especially TikTok, because we're trying to get that TikTok page up. And remember that what I can't do alone, we can do together. If nobody's told you today they love you, I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. Off next week, back to first. Let's go.
I just wanna feel